Welcome to Cycling on a Shoestring. I'm John, and on this episode, every once in a while, even cyclists have to make a stand. Welcome to my office upstairs in my house. And yesterday I was working on my road bike in my workshop, had it up on the bike stand, and I had my mountain bike off to the side, leaned up against the wall, and I started thinking to myself, I really need some kind of a small stand that I can just roll my mountain bike into when I have it in the workshop. And also in the summertime, I can throw that stand into the trunk of my car, leave it there, so when I'm out of the trailhead, I can just throw it on the ground and I can stand my bike up beside my car as opposed to leaning it up against my car all the time. So I started looking online and I saw there were a few options out there. So the first thing I did looking for a bike stand was go on the internet naturally, and I came across a lot that are very similar to this one. This is made out of metal by a company called Bike Hand. I actually do a review of one of their bottom bracket tools on my YouTube channel, which you can watch, but you find a lot of them are very similar to this right here, okay? And this will take up to a 2.4-inch tire and a 29-inch wheel. So I went over to Amazon just to see what was available and some prices on them. This one's made by a company called Rack. Again, a variation on a theme here, made out of metal. But I didn't really like the price, $54.59 Canadian. That's a lot of money. Don't want to spend that much money. So I started thinking, I wonder if I could build something like this in my workshop that would stand up my bike for those occasional times I want it around the house or I want it out by the trail. So that's what we're going to do this time. We're going to build a bike storage stand in my basement for you if you're cycling on a shoestring. Welcome to my workroom once again, and before we start, one, I'm not a carpenter, I'm doing this kind of on the fly. Second, I'm going to be using inches, not centimeters, because I'm an older guy. I've always used inches when I've cut wood. If you need to make the conversion, 2.54 centimeters in an inch, okay? So what are we going to need for this job to get your bike stand? First off, you're going to need a 2x4. I just happen to have one in the basement, which was 69 inches long. I've lopped an inch off of this, so it's now 68 inches in length, because I'm going to need two pieces that are 22 inches long, which will sit this way. Your wheel will run parallel to it, and then we'll have two pieces that are 12 inches long, and this will hold your bike up. Question is, how did I come to 22 inches? I kind of eyeballed it. So basically, if I stand this on the floor like this and I put a piece this size on top of it, that's 5 inches. Eyeballed it, looked at it on my 29-inch wheel. I figured with that wheel sitting in there right on the floor, it needs to be about 22 inches long. So that's basically how I came up with my measurements. So let's get down to it. Let's see what you need for the job, and then we'll make your bike stand if you're cycling on a shoestring. In addition to the 2x4, this is what you're going to need for this job. I'm going to be using a handsaw in this situation. You may have a power saw. Please take care if you're doing that. But I figure that handsaw will make short work of this 2x4. And I've also got some safety glasses there, which I'm going to be using because I'm going to be drilling some holes and putting some screws in a little bit later, and you can never be safe enough. You're going to need a measuring tape. I've got something to draw a nice straight line there, a square, and I've got myself a Sharpie, and I'm using 2.5-inch screws. You could use 8 screws. I'm going to use 12 just to make it a little bit stronger. I'm using the drill to drill some holes for those screws, and I'm going to put those screws in with that drill to make it a lot easier on myself. If you haven't got a drill, you're going to have to do it the old-fashioned way and use a screwdriver. So I've made my measurements on the wood. Remember, you need two pieces 12 inches long, two pieces 22 inches long, and I've got this set up on sort of a foot ladder and another ladder so it's properly balanced on here, and I'm not going to hurt myself. So let's cut this wood and see if we can get this bike stand put together. So just to explain how far we've come along here, I've got my two pieces that are 22 inches, I've got my two pieces that are 12 inches, and as you can see, I've already put lines on this so we can line up these pieces on top. Now these lines are 3 1/4 inch from both ends, okay?
And so what I'll do is I'll set this up the way it's going to work out when I get it all together, although these bottom pieces will be right at the end of these 22-inch pieces. You just basically lined the 22-inch pieces up on the inside of those black lines. So now it all adds up to 12, and I'd end up with 2.5 inches on the inside. So I've got 3.25 inches, 1.5, 2.5, 1.5, 3.25, works out to 12 inches. Now, if you've got a narrower tire or a wider tire, just do your measurements. You can fit any size tire in there you want. Even if you wanted to use your road bike, you could do it as well. Just do the measurements and you're ready to go. So now what do we do next? Drill some holes, put the thing together, and we'll see if my bike will stand up when we finish this up. So I'm getting ready to drill my hole. So I've just kind of put just some guide marks on here with that pen again, about 3/4 of an inch on the inside of those lines, because you've got a 2x4 basically, which is 1.5 inches across. So if you put it halfway in between, that'd be 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to drill 3 holes here, and I've got another piece of wood underneath it just so I don't drill through right into my table. I don't want to do that. So you're going to need your drill and a drill bit, some safety glasses, and you'll be ready to go. So let's do that now. So I'm getting ready to do the screwing here so we can get this job done. And what I've done to make this easier to line up these pieces, in addition to those lines I've got on this side, I've kind of extended that all the way around so that when I'm looking down here, I can line up the lines on the end here, get this nice and flush, and make sure that I've got it nice and square in there so that when I put the screws in, that piece will be exactly where I want it to be. Now, this line here, this is going to leave a 2.5 inch gap here, and I have a 2.4 inch tire, so I might just put it just on the inside of that line a little bit so it'll be a little bit tighter so that wheel won't just wobble around in there. And I think if I do this, I should be good to go. So what I've done now is I've changed off the tip of my drill so that I can put these 2.5 inch screws in and I don't have to screw my arm off putting them in. So let's do that now and we'll see if we can get this finished up. We're almost done the job, so here we go. So here's my bike, here's the stand. Let's see if it works. Voila, perfect. I have to say I'm pretty pleased with myself, and I'm pretty pleased that this worked so well. It didn't cost a lot of money and it didn't take a lot of time, something you can do around the house if you're wanting to stand your bike up around your shop, in your garage, or when you're out at the trail and you want to stand that bike up instead of leaning it up against your car. Well, if this was a helpful video or you thought I did a pretty good job, you can give me a thumbs up. I'd appreciate that. Please subscribe to the channel as well. Ring that bell so you get notifications of new videos, and thank you so much for watching Cycling on a Shoestring.